In the spring of 1977, the quiet suburb of Dover, Massachusetts, became the epicenter of an enduring mystery. True biological anomalies rarely rely on a single blurry photograph. Instead, they leave a trail of consistent data points. Over a tight 25-hour window, 3 completely separate groups of local teenagers reported crossing paths with something entirely alien to known taxonomy. Out in the dark, a pale, hairless entity navigated the rough stone walls with a fluid, almost liquid gait. Witnesses described a highly specific anatomy, a 4-foot-tall biped with rough, peach-colored skin. It had a massive, heavy, watermelon-shaped head, completely lacking a mouth, nose, or visible ears. Most nighttime scares involve misidentified wildlife, like owls or coyotes, but the sheer anatomical weirdness described here, a bipedal creature with 0 distinct facial features besides 2 massive eyes, doesn't align with any indigenous North American fauna. The persistence of this biological profile is what separates it from typical folklore. This exact physical description was observed, detailed, and logged by unconnected witnesses 3 separate times in a single day. The timeline kicks off late on the night of April 21st. 17-year-old Bill Bartlett was driving down Farm Street when his headlights swept across a crumbling stone wall, illuminating a bizarre silhouette. From behind the wheel, Bartlett noted incredibly specific textures. The entity's pale tan skin looked like rough sandpaper, and its enormous, lidless orange eyes seemed to glow with an intense internal fire. The biomechanics were equally strange. The creature possessed long, spindly limbs ending in elongated fingers that wrapped around the uneven stones, gripping the solid rock with an unnerving, terrifying strength. The bizarre creature, perched on the wall, silently swiveled its massive, seemingly necklace head toward the passing car. Rattled by what he saw, Bartlett sped away. As soon as he got home, he sat down and sketched the creature exactly as he remembered it, locking in the physical evidence of his encounter. That late-night drawing gave investigators a critical biological baseline. Unbeknownst to Bartlett, that exact physical model was about to be put to the test. Just a few hours later, John Baxter was walking home on an isolated road. He spotted a short bipedal figure ahead of him and followed it down into a dark, moonlit wooded gully. There, standing against a tree trunk, was the same entity. Baxter observed the identical 4-foot height, bulbous head, and unmistakable peach-colored skin. Again, the creature's strange anatomy was on full display. Baxter watched its spindly arms wrap entirely around the wood, using long, almost suction-like fingers to dig tightly into the rough bark. It made no sound at all, holding a perfectly still standoff with the bioluminescent fire of its eyes. The next night, Abby Brabham and Will Tainter had their own sighting from a car. When you plot all 3 of these locations on a map, they form a tight cluster over a span of barely 25 hours. The biological consistency here is what provides the case its weight. Brabham and Tainter reported the same missing facial features and glowing eyes, perfectly matching up with Bartlett and Baxter's independent accounts. When 3 isolated groups of people accurately described the identical, highly specific anatomy of an unknown animal within a single day, the probability of a localized mass hallucination plummets. The data points to a physical, biological reality. For a long time, the entity known as the Dover Demon was frozen in the late 70s. It became a local legend, a bizarre campfire story tucked away in the archives of American folklore. Today, researchers are approaching these legacy cases with fresh eyes. Forensic art and digital thermal imaging provide a new framework for evaluating these sightings, moving the investigation from 1970 sketches into the 21st century. The case remains open because the witness reports are so structurally sound. The anatomical details, the skin texture, the gait, and the ocular structure don't contradict each other, making it difficult for analysts to simply write the records off as a hoax. It leaves us to wonder what actually gripped those rough stones in the spring of 1977. If an anomaly like that can wander through a quiet suburb completely undetected before or since, it suggests our understanding of the natural world is still incomplete. In the late 20th century, the assumption was simple. The inevitable sprawl of Boston suburbs would eventually pave over the old local ghost stories. The concrete grid expanded outward, tearing through natural habitats. This forced anything living there to retreat deeper into the isolated corridors of the Charles River Basin. Today, investigators focus their search directly on this remaining pocket of green, finding evidence something is still there. Modern thermal monitors are picking up the heat signatures of a 4-foot biological entity. It moves through the dense Massachusetts foliage with a strange, fluid, undulating gait on long, spindly limbs, where no native primate should exist. The original mystery never died out. It adapted. Now the data reveals this creature is tracking a path out of the deep woods and right back toward human habitation. Our spatial tracking starts far from civilization, deep inside the original Farm Street woods. In the winter of 2006, searchers located a series of unusual depressions far off the marked trails. Digital casts of these prints in the mud revealed an elongated footprint with exactly 4 distinct fingers. At the tips of these prints are prominent circular, suction cup-like depressions. This highly specific anatomical detail perfectly matches the spindly fingers drawn by the original eyewitnesses in 1977. By analyzing the spacing and depth of these casts, biomechanical experts mapped out a heavy gait. The trackway shows the creature seamlessly dropping from a 2-legged walk into a quadrupedal scramble. These tracks provided hard physical data. A subjective sighting had left a heavy, trackable biological impression in the mud. 6 years later, the focus shifted from the deep, untouched woods to the very edge of the suburban perimeter. In 2012, an infrared trail camera stationed near the tree line was triggered. The high-contrast flash illuminated a massive pair of circular, glowing eyes. By measuring the camera's angle against the cedar tree, analysts confirmed the glowing eyes sit exactly 4 feet off the forest floor. The infrared heat signature reveals an emaciated, hairless torso. Long, spindly limbs wrap tightly around the bark, supporting a massive, watermelon-shaped head. This capture validated the original anatomical sketches from 1977. It proved a biological creature is actively monitoring the exact border between the woods and the town. By 2019, that border was breached. The entity had moved out of the tree line entirely. A homeowner's doorbell camera triggered late at night, capturing an entity standing directly on their front porch. As it reaches out toward the LED light fixture, you see an elongated, spindly hand. The homeowner reported a massive cranium and noted a jarring detail. Beneath the eyes, the face had no visible mouth. Under the harsh glare of the porch light, the creature's skin texture becomes visible. It appears granular and tan, shimmering slightly, an exact match for the rough, sandpaper-like epidermis described by Bill Bartlett over 40 years earlier. We went from teenagers sketching on paper to high-definition doorbell cameras. The technology evolved, and it captured an unknown biological entity standing right at our front doors. The data points track a clear spatial progression over 13 years. We can follow its path from muddy tracks in the dense brush to an infrared silhouette at the tree line, and finally to a fully lit surveillance capture on a residential porch. When investigators look at this collection of anomalies, the suction cup fingertips, the shimmering skin, and the lack of a mouth, they see a unique biological profile that shares more in common with deep-sea organisms than any surface primate. This suggests we are looking at a subterranean hominid. These traits are evolutionary adaptations for survival in pitch-black, unmapped corridors, where light-gathering eyes and tactile fingers are essential for navigating a world without sun. As Boston continues to expand by pouring new asphalt and raising new developments, the woods of Dover harbor an ancient ecology right alongside us. It watches us from the old stone walls at dusk, perfectly adapted to exist within the blind spots of our own digital surveillance network. We built the suburbs, but as long as those massive, glowing orange eyes keep appearing in the dark, the Dover demon remains the true, untamed master of its domain.